Before we begin tonight's journey into the past, I need to tell you something important, something that actually connects directly to the story we're about to explore together. For years now, I've been investigating the mysteries mainstream history refuses to touch. Lost civilizations, suppressed evidence, alternative timelines, the questions that make comfortable narratives uncomfortable. And YouTube has made it very clear. Those investigations are too controversial for their platform. The content you've come to this channel for, the deep dives into what we've been told not to question, the evidence that challenges official stories, the mysteries that don't fit neat academic boxes. YouTube doesn't want you seeing it anymore. It's ironic, really, because tonight's documentary is about exactly this pattern, about how the true story of our ancestors has been simplified, sanitized, and suppressed, about how what we've been taught is comfortable fiction instead of uncomfortable truth. The pattern repeats throughout history. Suppress what makes people think too much. Bury what challenges the approved narrative. Well, I'm not stopping the investigation. I've opened a new vault. A new home where curiosity isn't censored and questions aren't controversial. The Mr. H Chronicles. Starting in the next 48 hours, that's where new content will live. Same voice you know. Same deep investigations you expect. Same commitment to evidence-based exploration. But without someone deciding which mysteries are acceptable to explore, this channel will remain as an archive. Every chronicle we've created together stays right here. But the investigation continues at the new home, uncensored and unrestricted. I need you to do something right now, before you drift off tonight. Subscribe to the Mr. H Chronicles. The link is in the description below. It takes 30 seconds, and it ensures you won't miss what comes next, because what comes next is going to challenge everything. First episodes drop in 2 days. Now then, speaking of suppressed truths and comfortable fictions, let's talk about your ancestors. Everything you think you know about early humans, the cave-dwelling brutes, the primitive savages, the simple-minded survivors who somehow stumbled their way into civilization. Wrong. Completely, demonstrably, fascinatingly wrong. Tonight, we're uncovering one of the most successful cover-ups in human history. A story we told ourselves that made us feel superior, but robbed us of something profound. What if I told you that your ancestors 70,000 years ago possessed skills you'll never have? Knowledge you've completely lost? Capabilities that would make your modern competencies look like amateur hour? What if the story of human progress isn't a line going up, but a circle? Tonight, we remember. Let's begin. It's 47,000 years before the present moment, before cities, before agriculture, before writing, before everything you think of as civilization. You're waking up, not in a bed, not in a house, in a cave, somewhere in what will one day be called southern France. Just stone walls that have sheltered your family for 3 generations, and will shelter 3 more after you're gone. The first thing you feel is cold. Not the kind of cold that makes you reach for a thermostat. The kind that lives in stone, that seeps into your bones, that reminds you every morning that staying warm is something you have to earn, not expect. Your back is against rock, smooth where countless bodies have worn it down over centuries. There's dried grass beneath you, animal hides over you. The smell is everywhere. Smoke from last night's fire, still burning low in the center of the cave, ochre and ash. Sweat and breath, the musk of 23 people sleeping in one space. Their breathing creating a rhythm that sounds almost like the ocean you've never seen but somehow know exists. Someone's hand is on your shoulder. Your grandmother. You don't need to open your eyes to know it's her. Her touch is different from everyone else's. Firmer. More certain, the calluses on her palm tell stories your people don't have words for yet, but everyone understands anyway. It's time. You open your eyes to darkness that isn't quite dark. The fire is down to embers, but they cast just enough light to see shapes. Your brother to your left, still sleeping, his hand curled near his face, the way it's been since he was a baby. Your cousin beyond him, your aunt with her twin daughters, your grandfather, the oldest person you've ever known, his breathing steady and deep, This is your entire world. These 23 people, and you know every single one of them better than you'll ever know anyone in your entire life. Your grandmother doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. You rise, carefully, stepping over sleeping bodies with the precision of someone who's done this 1,000 times. Your feet know every uneven surface of this floor, every loose stone, every place where water sometimes pools when rain finds its way inside. Outside, the sky is that particular shade of blue-black that comes just before dawn. The stars are still out. Thousands of them. Millions of them. More than you'll ever be able to count. Even though you've tried. Even though your grandfather taught you their patterns, their movements, their names in the old stories. Here's something they don't tell you in school, in textbooks, in museums. Your ancestors, the ones they call primitive, cave dwellers, barely human, they had bigger brains than you do. Literally. Physically. Measurably. Larger. Modern humans average about 1,300 cubic centimeters of brain volume. They weren't dumber than you. They were smarter, in ways that would absolutely humble you if you had to compete. Take your grandmother, standing next to you now, looking at the sky. She's memorized the position of every major celestial body. Not because she went to school, not because she read a book, because she's been watching since she was 3 years old, every clear night of her life. She can tell you, without instruments, without calculations, exactly what day it is in the cycle of seasons, when the herds will move, when the fish will run, when certain plants will fruit. She can navigate 100 miles through unmarked wilderness and end up exactly where she intended. No compass, no map, no GPS, just observation, memory, and a spatial reasoning capacity that would make most modern humans look like they're wandering around with their eyes closed. You think that's impressive? She can identify over 200 plant species by sight, smell, and touch. She knows which ones are food, which ones are medicine, which ones will kill you, and which ones will do all three depending on how you prepare them. She knows their seasons, their growing patterns, their relationships to other plants and animals. Try that. Right now, go outside and try to identify 10 wild plants with certainty. Try to navigate 5 miles through woods without a trail and end up where you intended. You can't. I can't. We've lost that capacity. Not because we're less evolved, because we don't need it anymore. We traded depth for breadth. We gave up encyclopedic knowledge of our immediate environment for abstract knowledge of things we'll never see or touch. But here's the thing that should really blow your mind. Recent archaeological discoveries have completely upended everything we thought we knew about timeline. They're finding cave art that's 200,000 years old. Not the simple stick figures we imagined. Sophisticated representations with perspective, proportion, shading. They're finding bone flutes with perfect pentatonic musical scales from 40,000 years ago. Counting systems etched into bone from 70,000 years back. Evidence of ocean navigation, of long-distance trade networks, of astronomical observation that rivals anything achieved before the modern era. All of this pushed back. Earlier and earlier. Further and further. Into the past. The story we told ourselves was comfortable. Simple, linear, primitive humans slowly, gradually becoming smarter. Civilization as a pyramid. With us at the top and them at the bottom. But it's not true. It was never true. What if the story is actually circular? What if what we call progress is just change? What if your ancestors weren't working their way up toward becoming you? What if they were something complete in themselves? Something we can barely understand because we've lost the framework to even comprehend it? Stand there with your grandmother in the pre-dawn darkness. Feel the cold stone under your feet. Smell the smoke in your hair. Hear the stirring in the cave behind you as others begin to wake. This is your life. This is your normal. And I promise you, by the time the sun sets tonight, you're going to see it completely differently. You're going to understand that primitive is just a word we use to make ourselves feel superior to people who could do things we've completely forgotten how to do. Tonight, we're spending a full day with them. Your ancestors. From dawn to dark. from waking to sleeping. We're going to see what they saw, do what they did. And here's my personal take. After years of investigating suppressed history, after digging into evidence that mainstream archaeology doesn't want to discuss, not because of conspiracy, not because of cover-up, but because of something worse, collective amnesia, a story we all agreed to believe because it made us feel better about ourselves. We're not just learning about early humans tonight. We're discovering what we lost when we decided to call ourselves civilized. We're finding what we forgot when we built our cities and our screens and our separation from everything wild. And maybe, just maybe, we're remembering something we desperately need to remember. Your grandmother is watching the horizon. The sky is getting lighter. The stars are fading. The day is about to begin. Let's begin with her. The sky is bleeding color now, deep purple fading to amber at the edges. Your grandmother raises her hand, and without anyone speaking, without anyone giving orders, the entire tribe begins to gather. This isn't random. Nothing about this is random. They're positioning themselves in a specific pattern, a semicircle facing east, with the oldest members in the center, the youngest at the edges, everyone else arranged by some logic you'd need months to understand. But it's the result of knowledge accumulated over thousands of years, encoded in gesture and habit so deep it feels like instinct. Your grandfather steps forward. He's old, older than anyone has a right to be in this time, maybe 50, maybe 55, ancient by the standards of an era where most people don't make it past 35. His body is marked by a lifetime of survival, scars from animals you've never seen, a limp from a fall that should have killed him, fingers that don't quite straighten anymore, but his voice is strong. He begins to sing. It's not like any singing you've heard, not performance, not entertainment. This is something else, something older. The sound seems to come from the earth itself, resonating in your chest cavity, in your bones. The others join in, one by one, their voices layering over his, creating harmonies that shift and evolve. You don't understand all the words yet. You're only 12. You're still learning, but you understand the feeling. This song is a map, a calendar, a survival manual encoded in melody and rhythm. Listen carefully and you'll hear it. This verse describes the movement of elk herds in the third moon. This phrase warns about the river when the snow melts too fast. This section celebrates a successful hunt from 3 generations ago. But it's not just celebration. It's instruction. It's teaching every person here exactly what your great-great-grandfather did right, so they can do it too when their moment comes. This is how information survives when you have no writing, when you have no books, no hard drives, no cloud storage. You encode it in song, in story, in rhythm so catchy it burrows into your brain and stays there forever. Recent studies of oral traditions have proven something absolutely remarkable. Indigenous peoples can preserve accurate information for 10,000 years this way. 10,000 years. Through nothing but voice and memory. The Aboriginal Australians have songs describing coastlines that existed before the end of the Ice Age. 12,000 years of perfect recall, passed from mouth to mouth again. Your ancestors weren't just remembering stories, they were maintaining a database, a living, breathing archive of everything their people had ever learned about survival. And they did it every single morning. Not because they had to, because they understood something we've forgotten. That knowledge without practice is knowledge that dies. That memory requires ritual, that the sacred and the practical aren't separate things. The song ends as the sun breaks the horizon. Perfect timing, not by accident. When the light will hit. When the day officially begins, your stomach is empty. You haven't eaten since yesterday afternoon. The children are sent to gather water. Not a chore, a responsibility. They run toward the stream that flows half a mile from the cave, laughing, pushing each other, racing. But when they reach the water, they stop. They wait. The oldest child cups her hands, drinks first, pours water for the smaller ones. They fill the containers they've carried. Stomachs made from animal bladders, tightly woven baskets sealed with pine resin. They're not just fetching water. They're learning hierarchy, cooperation, patience, They're developing the spatial memory that lets them navigate confidently through terrain that would terrify a modern hiker. They're building the muscle and bone density that will let them walk 20 miles tomorrow without thinking about it. Education isn't separate from life here. It's woven into everything. No classroom, no curriculum, just constant, immersive learning through doing. Back at the cave, your grandmother and 3 other women are examining plants. They've spread out the previous day's gathering on flat stones. Roots, leaves, berries, fungi. They're making decisions. This is where it gets really interesting, because what they're doing right now would impress a modern nutritionist. They're not just choosing what tastes good. They're balancing nutrients with the precision of someone following a meal plan designed by a team of scientists. These roots, high in complex carbohydrates, sustained energy. Those leaves, loaded with vitamins that prevent the diseases they don't have names for, but have learned to avoid. These berries, antioxidants. Those seeds, protein and healthy fats. They know which plants to ferment and how long to ferment them. They know which ones need cooking and which ones lose their value when heated. They know which combinations aid digestion and which ones cause problems. Nobody taught them this in school. They learned it the way you learn to walk, by watching, by trying, by making mistakes when the stakes are low enough that mistakes won't kill you, and by listening to the elders who made those mistakes 30 years ago and lived to talk about it. The paradox here is almost funny if it weren't so humbling. These people, who we call primitive, who lived in caves, who wore animal skins, had a more sophisticated understanding of nutrition than most modern Americans. They didn't have heart disease. They didn't have obesity, not because they were genetically different, because they were eating food their bodies actually recognized as food. And they were eating it in combinations that made sense. Your grandmother hands you something. A root you helped dig yesterday. It's been soaking overnight in water. She shows you how to peel it, scraping with a stone blade that's sharper than it has any right to be. Underneath, the flesh is white and crisp. You bite into it. It's slightly sweet, slightly bitter, with a texture that's almost like an apple but not quite. It fills your mouth with moisture, satisfies something you didn't know was hungry. She nods. Approval. You did well yesterday, finding these. You remembered where they grow. You dug carefully enough not to damage the plant, so it'll grow back next year. You carried them home without dropping any. Small things. But small things are how you survive. Around you, others are eating too. Not gorging, not rushing, taking their time, chewing thoroughly. There's conversation, but it's quiet, calm. This is breakfast, but it's also communion. It's connection. It's the daily reaffirmation that you're part of something larger than yourself. After eating, the men gather their tools. This is the other morning ritual, the maintenance, the preparation. Your uncle sits with his spear, examining every inch of the shaft. He's looking for cracks, for weakness, for any sign that it might fail when failure means death. The stone point at the tip is lashed tight with sinew that's been soaked and dried. As it dried, it contracted, creating a grip tighter than any modern adhesive. But he checks it anyway, tugs on it, tests it. Satisfied, he pulls out a small stone and begins to sharpen the edge. The sound is rhythmic, stone on stone, a whisper that somehow carries. The sound multiplies, creates a pattern, becomes almost like music. This isn't just maintenance, it's meditation, the repetitive motion, the focus required, the connection between hand and tool and purpose. Your uncle's mind is both completely engaged and completely empty, present in the moment but thinking about nothing. Modern people pay money for this. They go to meditation retreats. They download apps. They struggle to find 10 minutes of mental quiet in their entire day. Your uncle does it every morning without trying, because he's doing something real, something that matters, something his hands understand even when his mind drifts. You're watching him, learning, not from instruction but from observation. You see how he holds the stone, the angle, the pressure, the rhythm. Someday, probably soon, you'll be doing this with your own tools. Tools you'll make yourself, customized to your hand, your strength, your style. Because here's something else we've lost: the concept of tools as extensions of self. Your grandfather's knife doesn't work as well in anyone else's hand because it's shaped by years of use, by the specific way he grips it, by the tasks he uses it for. The handle is worn smooth where his fingers rest. The blade is ground down in the pattern of his sharpening style. These aren't mass-produced objects. They're relationships between person and material, between hand and purpose. Your aunt is working with fiber. She's taking plant stems that she gathered and dried last summer, splitting them into fine strands, rolling them against her thigh to create thread. It's hypnotic to watch. Her hands move automatically. She's not looking at what she's doing. She's talking with your mother, laughing about something, but her hands never stop, never falter. This thread will become cord. The cord will become rope. The rope will become nets, bags. It's the most important technology your people have, and it's almost invisible. It leaves no trace in the archaeological record. It rots away, disappears, which means modern archaeologists, for decades, underestimated your ancestors. They saw stone tools and thought that's all there was. They missed the revolution. The real revolution wasn't fire or stone. It was string. String changed everything. It let you carry more than your hands could hold. It let you catch fish while you slept. It let you build shelters that didn't collapse. It let you create clothing that actually kept you warm. And it required planning, abstract thinking, the ability to envision something that doesn't exist yet and work through 50 steps to make it real. Your aunt learned this skill when she was 7. By the time she was 10, she could create cordage from a dozen different plants, each with different properties, each suited to different purposes. She knows which fibers are strongest, which are most flexible, which resist water, which hold knots best. Try that. Go outside right now and make string from plants. Make it strong enough to hold weight. Make it consistent enough to actually use. You can't. Neither can I. We've lost that knowledge. We buy our rope at stores, made by machines, identical and impersonal. The sun is fully up now. The morning chill is fading. The day is beginning in earnest. People are starting to move with purpose, splitting into groups, making decisions about what needs to happen today. But before they scatter, there's one more moment. Your grandfather raises his hand. Everyone stops, looks at him. He doesn't speak, just places his palm over his heart, then extends it toward the group. A gesture, a blessing, a reminder. You are tribe. You are family. You are the reason any of us survives. Whatever happens today, we face it together. No words needed. Everyone understands. This is what we've lost more than anything else. This bone-deep certainty that you belong, that you matter, that your survival is woven into the survival of everyone around you. We have social media now. We have thousands of online friends. We have connectivity beyond anything your ancestors could imagine. And we're lonelier than any humans have ever been. They had 23 people, and they knew those 23 people more intimately than you'll ever know anyone. They trusted them with their lives. Literally, every single day. That's not primitive. That's not simple. That's sophisticated social technology that we've completely forgotten how to replicate. The morning ritual is complete. The day begins. And your ancestors are about to do something that will absolutely humble any modern human who thinks they're the peak of evolution. They're going hunting. 6 men leave the cave. Your uncle, your father, your older cousin, and 3 others. They move without speaking, without apparent coordination. Yet they fall into formation naturally. Your uncle in front, the others spread out behind him in a pattern that makes sense for reasons you're only beginning to understand. You're going with them today. First time. You've been begging for months. Your father finally agreed last night with a single nod. You expected excitement. The rush of the chase. What you get instead is something completely different. Something slower, quieter. Something that feels more like meditation than warfare. Your uncle stops after only 50 paces. He's crouching, staring at something on the ground. You move closer, trying to see what caught his attention. Just rocks and scattered grass. Except it's not. He traces his finger through the air, not quite touching the ground, following something invisible to your untrained eyes. Then he looks up at your father and makes a gesture. 3 fingers, a twist of his wrist, a tilt of his head. Your father nods. They change direction slightly. Still moving slowly. Still utterly silent. Later, much later, your uncle will explain what he saw. How a single blade of grass, bent in a particular direction, told him that 3 deer passed this way. How the depth of a partial hoofprint in soft earth indicated their weight, their health, their speed. How the spray pattern of displaced pebbles revealed which direction they were traveling and how long ago. He extracted more information from a disturbed piece of ground than most modern people could get from a written paragraph. This is tracking. And it's not magic. It's neuroscience. Brain imaging studies of expert trackers show something fascinating. When they're reading signs, their brains light up in the same patterns as when skilled readers process complex text. The visual cortex, yes, but also the language centers, the abstract reasoning areas, the spatial processing regions, the memory systems. They're reading the ground the way you read this sentence, extracting meaning from patterns, making inferences, constructing narratives, predicting what comes next, except they're doing it with bent grass and disturbed dirt and the angle of a scraped stone. Your uncle is reading a story right now. He's seeing the deer that passed here 4 hours ago, seeing their mood, their alertness, their destination. He's seeing the world through their eyes, thinking like they think, anticipating where they'll go next, and he's doing it while simultaneously aware of everything else. The wind direction, the cloud patterns, the behavior of birds in the distance, the smell in the air that might indicate rain, the position of the sun and what it means for where shadows will fall in 2 hours. He's processing more concurrent streams of sensory data than your conscious mind could possibly handle, and he's doing it automatically. This is what a human brain can do when it's actually used for what it evolved to do. We think we're smarter now because we can use smartphones, because we can Google things, because we have access to information. But information isn't intelligence. Knowledge isn't wisdom. Your uncle can't read, can't write, has never seen a book. And he's performing cognitive feats that would leave most modern humans looking like they're functioning with a significant disability. The group moves on, still slow, still silent. An hour passes. Then 2. A negotiation with time and space and probability. Your father suddenly freezes. Everyone stops. He's spotted something. Movement in the distance. Brown against green. There. Gone. There. Again. The deer. 3 of them, just like your uncle said. They're grazing in a small clearing maybe 300 yards away, completely unaware they're being watched. Now comes the interesting part, because what happens next isn't what you'd expect. Instead, he sits down, right there on the ground, cross-legged. Still, everyone else does the same, including you, though you're confused. You just found them. Why are you stopping? Your father leans close, whispers so quietly you can barely hear. We wait. For what? For them to tell us they're ready. You don't understand. But you wait anyway. 10 minutes pass. The deer keep grazing, moving slowly through the clearing. One of them, the largest, keeps looking up, scanning the tree line. Alert. Your uncle is watching this deer with absolute focus, reading its body language, its ear positions, the tension in its muscles. He's having a conversation with an animal that doesn't know he exists. Then something shifts. The large deer relaxes, drops its head, begins to graze more intently. Your uncle stands immediately. The others rise with him. They begin to move, not fast, not running, just walking, steady, relentless, directly toward the deer. The deer look up, see them, and run. Here's where it gets strange. Your uncle doesn't chase them. He just keeps walking, Same pace, same direction. Like he's out for a casual stroll and the fleeing deer are completely irrelevant. This is persistence hunting. And it's one of the most sophisticated predation strategies ever evolved. Here's how it works. Deer are faster than humans. Much faster. In a sprint, there's no contest. But deer can't maintain that speed. They're built for explosive bursts, not endurance. They overheat quickly. They need to stop, to pant, to cool down. Humans are different. Humans are endurance machines. We can maintain a steady pace for hours, days, if necessary. We have more sweat glands than almost any other mammal. We can cool ourselves while moving. We don't overheat, so the strategy is simple, elegant, and absolutely brutal. You don't chase the deer, you just follow it. It runs, you walk, it stops to recover. You keep walking, it sees you coming and runs again. You keep walking. Eventually, after hours of this, the deer's body temperature rises to dangerous levels. Its muscles begin to fail. Its decision-making deteriorates. It becomes, essentially, delirious. And then it just stops. Too exhausted to run anymore, too overheated to think clearly, and you walk up to it and end its life with a spear thrust. This isn't about being faster or stronger. It's about being smarter, about understanding physiology and psychology and using them as weapons. The hours that follow blur together. The sun climbs higher, gets hot, your legs ache, your throat is dry, but you keep moving. Your uncle never wavers, never speeds up, never slows down, just maintains that steady, terrible pace. The deer are somewhere ahead. You catch glimpses occasionally. They look panicked now, running in ways that don't make sense, doubling back, making mistakes. Your uncle is inside their heads. He's predicting their panic. He's positioned the group to cut off their escape routes. He's herding them, subtly, toward terrain that favors humans over prey. You're seeing apex predation, not with fangs and claws, with intelligence, with patience, with the ability to think several moves ahead and make your enemy's strengths into weaknesses. Around the 6th hour, you catch up to them. The deer are standing in a shallow stream, trying to cool down. They see you coming and try to run, but their legs buckle. They're done. Your uncle approaches the nearest one. It doesn't run. Can't run. Just stands there, sides heaving, tongue out, eyes wide. He places his hand on its neck, speaks to it. You can't hear the words, but you can hear the tone. Gentle, respectful, apologetic. Almost, then he kills it. Quick, clean. One thrust to the heart, the deer drops. The others scatter weakly, but your father and cousin are already there. 2 more kills. Efficient, practiced. And then something happens that modern people struggle to understand. Your uncle kneels next to the deer he killed. He closes its eyes with his fingers, places both hands on its body, and begins to speak. Not to the group, to the deer. He's thanking it, asking forgiveness, acknowledging the sacrifice, promising that nothing will be wasted, that its death has meaning, that it will feed his family, and its gift will be remembered. This isn't superstition. This isn't primitive animism. This is something deeper, something we've lost completely. It's the recognition that you are not separate from nature. You are part of it. You take life to sustain life. You kill to eat. And that's not something to celebrate or feel proud of. It's something to acknowledge with gravity and respect. Modern people who eat meat every day never think about this. Never consider the death that makes their dinner possible. They're insulated from it, disconnected from it. The killing happens somewhere else, done by someone else, packaged and sanitized and made abstract. Your ancestors couldn't afford that luxury. They had to look into the eyes of what they killed, had to feel its blood on their hands, had to carry its body home. So they developed rituals, ways of honoring the exchange, ways of maintaining their humanity while doing what survival required. The butchering begins right there. They work with practiced efficiency, stone blades that look crude but cut cleaner than you'd believe, Every part of the animal is considered. The hide, carefully removed, will become clothing. The sinew, stripped and dried, becomes thread and cordage. The bones will be tools, scrapers, needles, awls. The organs, rich in nutrients, will be eaten first. Even the hooves, boiled down, will yield glue. Nothing wasted, everything used. This is sustainability at a level modern environmentalists can only dream about. Your father hands you the heart. Still warm, he cuts a piece and eats it, then offers you the same. You hesitate for only a moment. This is honor. This is inclusion. This is becoming. You eat. The taste is rich, metallic, overwhelming. It fills your mouth with something primal, something that connects you directly to every hunter who came before you. You're not just eating, you're participating in something ancient, something that predates language. The walk back takes hours. You're carrying meat, heavy loads that make your shoulders ache. But the fatigue is different now. It's earned, purposeful. You're bringing food home. You're contributing. The other hunters are quiet, not from exhaustion, from satisfaction, from the deep, bone-level contentment that comes from doing what you were built to do. This is what modern humans have lost more than anything else. The experience of necessary competence, of skills that matter, of effort that has direct, visible, immediate meaning. You work all day at a computer, and at the end you have nothing to show for it but numbers on a screen. Abstractions, representations of value that never feel quite real. Your ancestors hunted all day and came home with food. Actual, physical, life-sustaining food. They could see it, touch it, smell it, share it, watch their children eat it and grow strong. The connection between effort and outcome was immediate and undeniable. And that connection, that certainty, that sense of purpose, created a kind of psychological satisfaction we've completely forgotten how to access. You arrive back at the cave as the sun is beginning its descent. The entire tribe sees you coming. They don't cheer, don't rush forward, but you can feel their relief, their gratitude, their pride. Tonight, everyone eats well. Tonight, because of what you did, what your uncle did, what your father did, the tribe survives another day. And in the survival of the tribe is the survival of everything you are, everything you'll ever be. You set down your burden. Your muscles are screaming. Your feet are blistered. You're covered in blood and dirt and sweat. You've never been more tired in your entire life. You've also never felt more alive. This is what it means to be human, not the version in the office, not the version staring at screens. The one that spent 6 hours reading bent grass and exhausting prey through sheer relentless will. That version is still inside you, buried under layers of civilization, under comfort and convenience and climate control. But it's there. Your ancestors knew something we've forgotten. That hunting wasn't just about food, it was about becoming fully human, about using every capacity you possess, about proving to yourself and your tribe that you can do what survival requires. The meat is distributed, cooked over fires. The smell fills the cave. Your stomach growls. You've earned this. Every bite, every moment. But the day isn't over yet. Not quite. The sun is still up. There's still work to be done. Always work to be done. That's the reality we've forgotten. That's what gives it meaning. Take a breath. Feel yourself here, now, in this moment. If this journey is resonating with you, if something about these ancient lives is stirring something you didn't know was there, leave a comment. Tell me what surprises you most. What skill would you want to learn from your ancestors? And if you're finding value in this exploration, that like button helps others discover it too. The day continues. The sun is lowering, and there's still so much to see. The sun is directly overhead now. The heat is building. Not the oppressive heat of modern summers made worse by concrete and asphalt, but a natural warmth that seeps into stone and skin and makes movement feel heavy. Your tribe doesn't fight it. They understand something about human physiology that took modern science centuries to confirm. The midday heat is when you rest. When you seek shade, when you let your body recover from the morning's exertions, everyone gathers in the coolest part of the cave, the deepest section where the stone stays perpetually cold. It's darker here, quieter. The light from outside barely reaches this far. This is the gathering place. And what happens here over the next few hours is more sophisticated than anything you'd expect from people we've labeled primitive. Your grandfather settles himself on a flat stone that's been worn smooth by countless sittings. Others arrange themselves in a loose circle around him. Children squeeze in close. Adults lean against the walls. Everyone finds their place without direction, without confusion. This is routine. This is daily. Your grandfather begins to speak. His voice is different now than it was this morning. Softer, more rhythmic. He's not giving instructions. He's telling a story. It starts simple enough. A story about a man who went hunting alone and got lost in a snowstorm. Children's eyes widen. They know this story. They've heard it before, but they never get tired of it. Except here's what you'd miss if you weren't paying attention. This isn't just entertainment. Embedded in this story is a survival manual. The man in the story makes specific choices. He recognizes certain landmarks. He uses particular techniques to start a fire in wet conditions. He finds shelter in a specific type of rock formation. All of this information is being delivered through narrative, through drama and emotion and suspense. And because it's packaged this way, it sticks. The children will remember this story for the rest of their lives, which means they'll remember the survival techniques, which means if they're ever lost in a snowstorm, they'll know exactly what to do. This is oral tradition, and recent research has proven something absolutely remarkable about it. Indigenous cultures have maintained accurate historical information for 10,000 years through nothing but storytelling. Australian Aboriginal peoples have songs that describe coastlines that existed before the sea level rose at the end of the last ice age. They've been singing those songs, passing them down generation to generation for 12,000 years. And when archaeologists finally checked, when they mapped the ancient coastlines, the songs were accurate, down to specific landmarks. 12,000 years of perfect recall. Through voice and memory alone, your ancestors weren't writing anything down. They couldn't. They had no writing system. But they didn't need one. They had something better. They had stories so compelling, so emotionally resonant, so deeply woven into daily life, that forgetting them was almost impossible. Your grandfather's story shifts. The lost man finds a cave. Inside, he discovers paintings on the walls, ancient images left by ancestors even older than memory. And here, embedded in the story, is astronomical information. Star positions, seasonal markers, the patterns that help you navigate when everything familiar is gone. The children are rapt. They're learning navigation without knowing they're learning. They're encoding spatial data into emotional memory. When they're older, when they need this information, it'll surface naturally, intuitively. It'll feel like instinct, but it's actually education, just delivered in a way that human brains are built to receive. Modern education tries to force information into minds through repetition and rote learning. Your ancestors did it through story, through emotion, through making information feel important by wrapping it in narrative that matters. Which method works better? Which one do you actually remember? The story concludes, the man makes it home. They knew he would. They've heard this story 100 times, but the relief is still real. The satisfaction, still genuine. Your little sister immediately starts pestering your aunt with questions. Why did the man go hunting alone? What kind of tracks did he follow? What plants did he eat when his supplies ran out? Your aunt answers patiently. But she's not just answering, she's testing. Seeing what your sister absorbed, what she needs to hear again, what she's ready to learn next. This is education without schools, without curriculum, without grades or tests. And it produces people with encyclopedic knowledge of their environment. People who can solve complex problems, people who understand cause and effect at levels that would humble most modern graduates. Across the circle, 2 women are working while they talk. Their hands move automatically, weaving plant fibers into cordage. They're gossiping, laughing about something. But their hands never stop, never falter. The rhythm continues. This is something else we've lost. The ability to work and socialize simultaneously. Modern work culture separates these things. You clock in, you work. You're supposed to focus exclusively on the task. Socializing is something you do on breaks, after hours. In designated spaces, your ancestors would find this bizarre. For them, work and social connection are the same thing. You create while you connect. You build relationships while you build tools. The separation doesn't exist. And there's neuroscience behind this too. When you engage in repetitive manual tasks, your conscious mind quiets. You enter a flow state. And in that state, your subconscious becomes more active, more creative, more able to process complex social information. The women working with fiber right now are doing something that looks simple, but their brains are performing multiple sophisticated operations. Motor coordination, pattern recognition, spatial reasoning, and simultaneously, they're navigating social dynamics, exchanging information, reinforcing bonds that might save their lives someday. Your cousin, who's about your age, leans over and whispers. He's noticed something. Two of the older boys, sitting together, not quite part of the circle. They're having their own quiet conversation. Planning something. Your cousin thinks they're going to sneak off later to explore the caves upstream. You nod. You'll go, but you both know you have to be smart about it. You have to wait until the adults are occupied. You have to make it look casual. This is social navigation, political awareness, understanding unspoken rules and hierarchies. All the soft skills that modern people struggle to learn in workshops and seminars. Your ancestors learned them from age 3. Every interaction was a lesson. Every day was practice. By the time you're 12, you can read a room better than most modern adults. You know who has influence, who defers to whom, who's likely to object to what, who you can trust with secrets. This isn't taught, it's absorbed. Through constant immersion in complex social dynamics. Through consequences that matter immediately and directly. An argument breaks out suddenly. Two men, both experienced hunters, disagreeing about tomorrow's plans. One wants to go north, following the deer. The other thinks they should go south, checking traps they set last week. Their voices rise. Not to shouting, but close. Everyone stops what they're doing. Watches. Waits. Your grandfather doesn't intervene immediately. He lets it play out. Lets them make their cases. Both men present evidence, observations, logic. They're not just arguing, they're demonstrating competence, proving their judgment is sound. Finally, your grandfather raises his hand. Both men stop immediately. Go quiet. He speaks, not choosing sides. Instead, he reframes the question. Why not split the group? Half north, half south. Cover both options. Reduce risk. Both men consider this. Nod. The tension drains. They actually look relieved, not because the decision was made for them, but because a solution was found that honors both perspectives. This is conflict resolution at the highest level. No winners or losers. No egos bruised. Just practical problem solving that strengthens rather than fractures social bonds. Modern workplaces spend millions on team building and conflict resolution training. Your ancestors did it naturally, daily, as part of normal life, because survival required cooperation, because splitting the tribe over disagreements meant death for everyone. The consequences were immediate, clear. So, social skills weren't optional, they were survival skills, as important as tracking or tool-making. One of the women suddenly stands, walks to the cave entrance, looks at the sky, comes back and says something to your grandmother. Your grandmother nods, begins organizing. Several women rise. Children are assigned tasks. Everyone moves with purpose. You don't understand what just happened until you see them gathering materials. Plant fibers, roots they've been soaking, dried grasses. They're going to work on something large, something that requires multiple people, a basket. But not just any basket. This is going to be huge, for carrying large loads, for storing food, for transporting water over long distances, the kind of basket that takes days to make. and lasts for years. The women spread out in a circle. Each takes a section. They begin weaving, their hands moving in patterns so complex you can't follow them. But somehow, impossibly, their individual sections align perfectly. Just shared knowledge so deep it might as well be telepathic. They talk while they work. Not about the basket, about everything else. Someone's child who's been coughing. The weather patterns they've been noticing. The berries that should be ripe in 2 weeks. Plans for the fall gathering when multiple tribes will meet. Information flows constantly. Observations, concerns, ideas. Nothing formal, no meetings, no agendas. Just continuous exchange that keeps everyone informed, connected, aligned. This is how decisions get made, how problems get solved, how knowledge gets distributed. Through conversation, through daily interaction, through the social fabric that's woven as tightly as the basket taking shape in their hands. Your little sister brings your grandmother water. Without being asked, she noticed the older woman's cup was empty. This kind of attention, this awareness of others' needs, is trained from birth. Not through rules, but through modeling. Through approval when you get it right. Through gentle correction when you don't. By the time you're 5 years old here, you're more socially competent than many modern adults. You can read nonverbal cues. You understand reciprocity. You know when to speak and when to stay quiet. You recognize subtle shifts in group dynamics. These aren't skills you learn in a class. They're capacities you develop through thousands of hours of practice. Through being embedded in a complex social structure from the moment you're born. Modern children spend their days in segregated classrooms, with peers who are all within months of the same age. They interact with maybe 30 people regularly. Under structured supervision, your ancestors grew up embedded in multi-generational groups, infants to elders, all in constant contact, learning from everyone, teaching everyone. The social complexity was exponentially higher, and that complexity built brains that could navigate it, made people who were emotionally intelligent in ways we struggle to even measure. The afternoon is deepening. The heat is fading slightly. Soon, people will return to work, to tasks that need completing before dark. But right now, in this moment, everyone is together, connected, part of something larger than themselves. Your grandmother catches your eye. Smiles. It's a small gesture, but it carries weight, acknowledgement, pride. You did well on the hunt. You're becoming who you need to become. That recognition matters more than any grade or trophy or performance review ever could, because it comes from someone whose opinion you value absolutely, whose approval means survival, whose experience spans generations. You sit in the cool darkness of the cave, surrounded by your entire world. 23 people who know you completely, who've seen you at your best and worst, who'll support you when you need it and challenge you when you need that instead. This is belonging, real belonging, not the shallow connection of social media followers or work acquaintances. Deep, earned, unshakable belonging that comes from shared struggle and mutual dependence. We've traded this for independence, for privacy. And we wonder why we're lonely, why anxiety and depression are epidemic. Your ancestors never wondered about these things, not because they were simpler, because they understood something fundamental, that humans aren't meant to be alone, that we're herd animals, that our brains literally require social connection to function properly. The midday rest is ending. People are stirring, stretching, preparing for the afternoon's work, but they're not rushing, not stressed. They've had this time together. This reinforcement of bonds, this reminder of who they are to each other. And that foundation, that certainty of connection, will carry them through whatever comes next. The heat has broken. The sun is past its peak, starting its long slide toward evening. The air inside the cave feels different now, cooler, more alive with purpose. Your grandmother stands and walks toward the back wall, the deepest part of the cave, where the light barely reaches. Others follow. You follow too, curious about what happens next. This is the painting wall. and what you see there stops your breath. Images cover the stone, animals rendered in ochre and charcoal, and something that looks almost like blood, but isn't. Bison, with their heads lowered, muscles defined so precisely you can see which leg bears weight, horses mid-gallop, their manes flowing with movement. A mammoth, tusks curved, trunk raised, every detail perfect. These aren't primitive stick figures. These are masterpieces. The use of perspective, the understanding of anatomy, the skill with which the artists use the natural contours of the rock to create three-dimensional effects. Your aunt is mixing pigments. She's grinding ochre, a reddish stone, against a harder rock. The powder collects in a natural depression. She adds fat rendered from yesterday's hunt, mixes it with a stick until the consistency is exactly right. Not too thick, not too thin. She's done this 1,000 times. She knows the feel. She's not copying anyone. She's not following instructions. She's creating based on decades of experience. The ochre she's using will last 40,000 years. Modern archaeologists will find these paintings perfectly preserved and struggle to understand how people without technology created pigments that stable, that permanent. The answer is knowledge, accumulated over generations, refined through trial and error. Your aunt takes a brush, not manufactured, just a stick with the end chewed soft, creating bristles. Simple. She approaches the wall, considers it for a long moment, then begins to paint. She's adding to an existing scene, expanding it. This wall has been painted and repainted for generations, layer upon layer, each artist adding their vision to the collective work. Some images are fresh, some are so old they're barely visible, ghosts beneath newer work. This isn't just art, it's communication across time. Your great-great-great-grandmother painted here. Her work is still visible if you know where to look. Your aunt is having a conversation with her, continuing something that began before memory. What's she painting? A map, disguised as decoration. Those curves that look purely aesthetic? They represent the river system 3 valleys over. Those dots, caves where water can be found. Those lines. Future generations will look at this wall and see beauty. But they'll also see information, encoded, preserved, accessible without words. Because here's something most people miss about cave art. It's not random. It's not just creative expression. A repository of knowledge too important to risk losing. In a culture without writing, you store information in images, in symbols, in art that's so compelling people will preserve it, protect it, return to it again and again. And each time they return, they absorb the information embedded within it. Modern people separate art and utility, museums and libraries, beauty and function. Your ancestors would find this bizarre. For them, the most beautiful things were also the most useful, and the most useful things deserved to be beautiful. Across the cave, your uncle is working with bone, a large leg bone from the deer killed this morning. He's using a stone blade to scrape it clean. The repetitive motion creates a rhythm. Scrape, pause. Scrape, pause. Almost meditative. Once it's clean, he begins to carve. He's making a flute. Not his first. He's made dozens over the years. But each one is unique. Each one has its own voice. The precision required is extraordinary. The holes have to be exactly the right size, spaced at exactly the right intervals. Too large, and the note is sharp. Too small, and it won't sound at all. Too close together, and the scale is wrong. Too far apart and you can't reach them. He's calculating acoustics without mathematics, understanding harmonics through practice and intuition, creating an instrument that will produce a perfect pentatonic scale. 40,000 years from now, archaeologists will find bone flutes exactly like this one. They'll play them and be shocked to discover they're tuned to modern musical scales. That primitive people understood musical theory at levels that took Western civilization thousands of years to formalize. But your uncle isn't thinking about any of that. He's just making a flute, because music matters, because the tribe needs it, because beauty and sound and shared experience are as essential as food. He tests it periodically, blows across the edge, adjusts, carves more. Tests again. The sound evolves, clarifies, becomes pure. By the time the sun sets, this bone will sing. Your cousin is working with fiber again, but not making cord this time. She's creating something more complex, a net. For fishing, the knots have to be consistent, the spacing exact. Too large and small fish escape. Too small and the net catches debris, becomes useless. She's not measuring anything, no ruler, no template. The whole thing emerging from her hands like magic. It's skill. This net represents something most people never think about. It represents a cognitive revolution that changed everything. Because making a net requires abstract thinking at the highest level. You have to envision the finished product before you begin. You have to plan dozens of steps ahead. You have to understand how the pattern you're creating in your hands will behave when you're done, when it's in water, when it's under tension, when fish are fighting against it. You're manipulating future states, predicting outcomes, planning for contingencies. This is executive function that rivals any modern engineering project. And your cousin learned to do it when she was 8 years old, by watching, by trying, by making mistakes on practice nets that didn't matter until she could create working nets that did. No classroom, no textbook, just apprenticeship in its purest form. Expert and novice, working side by side, knowledge transferring through demonstration and correction and encouragement. String changed the world. More than fire. More than stone tools. String let humans carry more than their hands could hold. Let them catch fish while they slept. Let them build shelters that didn't collapse. Let them create clothing complex enough to survive Arctic winters. And it all started with someone twisting plant fibers and thinking, what if I could make this longer, stronger, more useful? The innovation wasn't the string itself. It was the ability to imagine something that didn't exist yet, to hold a vision in your mind and work toward it through dozens of steps, to think abstractly about materials and properties and applications. This is human, uniquely human. Your father is resharpening his spear point. The hunt dulled it slightly. He's working the edge with patient precision, stone on stone, the familiar whisper filling the space. His face is completely relaxed, mind empty, hands working automatically. This is meditation. But nobody calls it that. It's just maintenance, just necessary work. Yet it produces the same mental state that modern people pay instructors to teach them. The quiet mind, the focused awareness, the flow state where time disappears and there's only the present moment. Your ancestors accessed this state daily, multiple times, through simple, repetitive tasks that had purpose and meaning, through work that connected hand to material, to outcome in direct, undeniable ways. We've lost this. We spend 8 hours looking at screens, manipulating abstractions, producing nothing we can touch or hold. Then we wonder why we feel disconnected, why we can't focus, why anxiety plagues us. Your father finishes, examines the edge, runs his thumb along it, feeling for perfection. Satisfied, he sets it aside, picks up a piece of wood, begins working on something new, a tool handle. The wood is green, still flexible. He's shaping it while it can still be shaped. So, when it dries, it'll hold its form forever. Creation is constant here. Not because people are industrious or virtuous, because survival requires it. Tools break. Clothing wears out. Baskets deteriorate. You're either making or repairing or you're falling behind. But this isn't drudgery. Look at their faces. Your aunt painting, your uncle carving, your cousin knotting, your father shaping. They're content, engaged in work that matters in ways they can see and touch and use. There's no separation between work and meaning here, between effort and purpose, between what you make and what you need. The connection is direct, immediate, satisfying in ways that paycheck deposits can never replicate. A child brings your grandmother more pigment. She's been preparing it, grinding it carefully. Proud of her contribution, your grandmother accepts it with a nod, with thanks. The child glows. She's been seen, acknowledged, her effort recognized. This is how children learn value. Not through grades or gold stars, through genuine contribution to genuine needs, through being part of the productive life of the tribe, through mattering. The afternoon light shifts. Golden now, slanting through the cave entrance, painting everything warm. The sounds of work continue. Stone on stone, fiber sliding through fingers, breath across bone, the small symphony of creation. Nobody's watching the clock. There is no clock. Work continues until it's done or until the light fails. Whichever comes first. By accomplishment, not duration. Your grandmother steps back from the wall, surveys her addition. She's painted a new figure. A woman with her arms raised. Around her, symbols, crescents and circles and patterns that mean something to those who know how to read them. It's beautiful. It's information. It's prayer. It's history. It's all of these at once. Because your ancestors didn't separate these categories. The sacred and the practical were the same thing. The beautiful and the useful weren't different concepts. Everything that mattered deserved to be made well, made beautifully. Because beauty was a kind of respect for the material, for the purpose, for the people who would use it. Your uncle completes his flute, lifts it to his lips, plays. The sound floats through the cave, pure, clear, haunting. Others stop to listen. Children move closer. The music speaks to something primal, something that predates language. He plays a melody, not complex, just a few notes repeated with variations. But it's enough. Enough to create atmosphere, to shift mood, to connect everyone present through shared sound. Music is magic, real magic. It synchronizes heartbeats, aligns breathing, creates emotional resonance between separate individuals. Your ancestors understood this, used it, made it part of daily life. Not performance, not entertainment, just expression, communication, connection. The flute speaks what words can't reach. The afternoon is fading toward evening. The quality of light changes, becomes softer, more forgiving. The day's heat is gone. Coolness creeps in from outside. People begin to shift, to prepare for the next phase. But nobody rushed. Nobody was stressed. The work happened naturally, steadily, with the rhythm of people who've done these tasks 1,000 times and will do them 1,000 more. This is craft, not as hobby, not as art separate from life, but as life itself, as the continuous process of making and remaking the tools of survival, of creating beauty. Because beauty makes survival bearable. We've lost this too. We buy mass-produced objects made by strangers in distant factories. We discard and replace instead of repairing. We've forgotten that creation is connection, that making things with our hands makes us more human. Your ancestors knew. Every day they knew. Through the work of their hands, through the things they made that would last and matter and carry forward the knowledge of generations. The afternoon crafts are complete. The tools are made. The art is painted, the music is played, and the tribe is richer for it, not in possessions, in connection, in beauty, in the satisfaction of creating something real. Evening approaches, the day shifts again, and with it the mood, the energy, the purpose. There's still more to see, more to understand, more to remember about who your ancestors were, and who you still are, beneath everything modern life has layered over. The sun is low now, painting the sky in shades of orange and deep purple. The temperature drops quickly once the direct light fades. You can feel the shift, the day releasing its hold, evening claiming its space. Your aunt, the one everyone goes to when something hurts, when someone is sick, when a child won't stop crying, walks toward the edge of the gathering area. Several others follow. You follow too, drawn by curiosity and something else. A sense that what's about to happen matters. She kneels beside a particular plant growing near the cave entrance. It doesn't look special. Small green leaves, unremarkable flowers, but she treats it with reverence, speaks to it softly before harvesting, takes only what she needs. leaves the rest to grow. This isn't superstition. This is relationship. She knows this plant personally, has watched it through seasons, understands its cycles, knows when it's most potent and when it's depleted. She's not just gathering medicine, she's maintaining a connection that's sustained her people for generations. Modern pharmaceutical companies isolate compounds, extract active ingredients, standardize doses. Your aunt works with the whole plant, the complex interaction of dozens of chemicals, the synergistic effects that can't be replicated in a lab. She knows, through direct experience, that this plant reduces fever. That one stops bleeding. This other one eases pain without causing the drowsiness that comes from the poppy. She can't explain the biochemistry. She doesn't need to. She has something better. Empirical knowledge passed down through 10,000 years of careful observation. Back in the cave, she begins preparation. Grinding some leaves with a smooth stone, setting others to soak in water that's been warmed by hot rocks, mixing powders with fats to create salves, each action practiced. Precise. Your younger brother cut his foot yesterday on a sharp stone. The wound isn't deep, but it's been troubling him. Your aunt calls him over, examines the cut with gentle fingers, nods to herself, applies a paste she's just prepared. The boy winces at first, then relaxes. Whatever's in that paste is working already. She wraps his foot with soft hide, ties it with sinew, sends him off. He's limping less. The pain is already fading. By tomorrow, the wound will be clean, healing properly. No infection. No complications. How does she know? How does someone without germ theory, without microscopes, without antibiotics, prevent infection through plant compounds that modern science is only now beginning to understand? Natural antiseptics, antimicrobials, substances that kill bacteria without killing healthy tissue. They work. They've always worked. Your ancestors just didn't know why. They only knew what, and sometimes that's enough. An older woman sits heavily on a flat stone. Her face is tight with pain. She's been walking differently for weeks now. Something in her hip, something that makes each step an effort. Your aunt goes to her immediately, doesn't ask questions. The older woman's presence here is the question. What follows looks like massage, but it's more than that. Your aunt's hands move with knowledge, finding pressure points, following meridians that traditional Chinese medicine will map thousands of years from now. Her touch is firm, confident. The older woman's face gradually softens. The tight lines around her mouth ease. After the physical work, your aunt prepares a tea, bark from a specific tree, leaves from that plant near the entrance, a root that tastes bitter but works miracles on joint pain. The older woman drinks it slowly, gratefully. By tomorrow, the inflammation will have reduced. The pain will be manageable. She'll walk easier. This is healthcare. Not hospitals. Not insurance. Just knowledge and care and plant medicines that actually work. Your ancestors had lower life expectancies, yes. But not because they didn't know how to heal. Because they lived dangerous lives. Because accidents happened. Because childbirth was risky. But for everyday ailments, for injuries and infections and chronic pain, they managed remarkably well. A young woman approaches your aunt. She's trying to be casual, but there's tension in her shoulders. Your aunt takes her aside. They speak quietly. You can't hear the words, but you understand the situation. The young woman doesn't want a child yet. She's too young. Not ready, your aunt nods. Understanding. No judgment. She prepares something. A mixture of specific plants taken at specific times. Contraception. That's surprisingly effective. Not perfect. Nothing ever is. But effective enough that women have some control over their fertility. Modern people think birth control is a modern invention. It's not. Indigenous peoples around the world have known about contraceptive plants for millennia. Some of them work so well that pharmaceutical companies have studied them, isolated the active compounds, turned them into patents. Your ancestors figured this out through observation, through trial and error, through women sharing knowledge with women across generations, through understanding that women need autonomy over their bodies to survive, to thrive. The young woman leaves. Relieved. Your aunt returns to her preparations. There's always someone who needs something, always some ailment to address, some pain to ease. Evening deepens, the first stars appear. Your grandfather emerges from the cave and looks up. Others join him. This is another ritual, less formal than the morning gathering, but just as important. He's reading the sky, not just looking at it, reading it. Those stars, in that configuration, tell him it's the 4th month of the cold season. That cluster rising there means the migration will begin soon. That bright star, the one that seems to pulse. He's navigating without instruments, using only his eyes and his memory and knowledge accumulated over a lifetime of watching. He knows the position of every major celestial body, knows their movements, their patterns, their meanings. Modern people need apps to identify constellations. Your grandfather carries a complete star map in his head, detailed enough to navigate 100 miles through unmarked wilderness and arrive exactly where he intended. This isn't intelligence as we measure it. No IQ test captures this. No standardized exam evaluates it. But it's genius nonetheless. The kind that comes from paying attention, from caring enough to learn, from understanding that knowledge means survival. A cry from inside the cave. Sharp, urgent. Everyone turns. Your grandmother moves quickly despite her age. Others follow. One of the women is in labor. Her second child. The first came easily enough, but birth is never guaranteed safe, never routine. This is the moment when everything can go right or terribly wrong. The birthing area is prepared quickly. Soft hides, water, specific plants your aunt brings, tools made from bone, polished smooth, sharper than they look. The women gather, form a circle. The men, including you, stay back. This isn't your space. This is women's domain. What happens next would surprise modern doctors. The laboring woman doesn't lie down. She's upright, squatting, using gravity, using positions that work with her body instead of against it. Other women support her. Tell her she's strong, she's capable, she's done this before. Your aunt monitors everything, feels the position of the child, knows from experience what's normal and what requires intervention. Ways of turning a child that's positioned wrong. Ways of managing complications that modern medicine wouldn't develop for thousands of years. The labor progresses. Hours pass. The woman works through the pain with remarkable composure. She doesn't scream, doesn't panic. She breathes, focuses, does what her body knows how to do. And when the child finally comes, sliding into waiting hands, the sound that fills the cave is unlike anything else. The first cry. That announcement of new life, of continuation, of the tribe growing stronger. Your aunt works quickly, clearing the infant's mouth, ensuring breath flows properly, tying off the cord with practiced efficiency, wrapping the baby in soft hide and placing it on the mother's chest. The survival rate for childbirth in your tribe is actually higher than it was in European hospitals until shockingly recently. 1800s. 1900s. Because doctors didn't understand infection, didn't wash their hands, didn't know what midwives had known for millennia. Your ancestors didn't have medical degrees, but they had experience. They had knowledge passed from grandmother to mother to daughter in an unbroken chain. They had techniques that worked because they'd been refined over countless births. The mother is exhausted, triumphant, grateful. The baby is healthy, vocal, perfect. The women clean everything, prepare the mother for recovery, ensure she has what she needs. Outside, your grandfather is still watching the stars. He doesn't know about the birth yet, but he will. And tomorrow, he'll tell the story of this night to the new child. We'll explain which stars were visible when she entered the world. We'll teach her, years from now, to navigate by them. The evening has brought its mysteries. Medicine, birth, the cycles of life that connect you to everyone who came before and everyone who will come after. Your ancestors understood this in ways we've forgotten. That healing isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about maintaining connection to plants, to each other, to the patterns that govern existence. Modern medicine is miraculous, life-saving, extraordinary in its capabilities. But we've lost something too. The personal knowledge, the plant wisdom, the understanding that we're part of nature, not separate from it. That medicine grows around us if we know how to look. Your aunt sits finally, her work complete for now. She's tired. She's always tired. There's always someone who needs her, always some wound to tend, some mystery of the body to interpret and heal. But she doesn't complain. This is her purpose, her contribution, the way she ensures the tribe survives. And in ensuring the tribe survives, she ensures her own survival, her children's survival. The continuation of everything she is. Night has fallen fully now. The sky is dense with stars, more than you'll ever see from a modern city. Millions of points of light, each one known to your grandfather, each one a landmark, a guide, a point of reference in the vast darkness. Your people understand something profound about darkness. It's not something to fear. It's something to know, to navigate, to exist within comfortably. The darkness is where stories live, where imagination thrives, where the mysteries that can't be explained in daylight find their voice. The evening has delivered its gifts: healing, new life, the continuation of patterns too old to measure. And now, as the temperature drops further, as the fire is built up, as everyone gathers close, the final transition begins, from evening into night, from waking into the space between waking and sleep, where dreams live, where your ancestors believed the real truths were revealed. The day is almost complete, but there's still one more phase, one more mystery to explore. The darkness holds it, the fire illuminates it, and you're about to discover what your ancestors knew about rest, about dreams, about the surrender that comes when the day finally releases you into sleep. The fire crackles and pops. Sparks rise into darkness and disappear like reverse stars. Everyone is gathered now, the entire tribe in a loose circle around the flames, bodies close, touching, the warmth shared, the light dancing across familiar faces. This is the fire circle. And it's more than just a place to stay warm. It's the center of everything human, the heart of civilization itself. Anthropologists will argue for centuries about what made us human. Was it tools, language, opposable thumbs? But some think the real answer is fire. Specifically, the campfire. Because fire gave us something no other animal has. Safe darkness, light after sunset. Time to be awake when everything else sleeps. And in that time, in those hours between sunset and sleep, we became storytellers, thinkers, dreamers. We developed culture, abstract thought, the ability to imagine things that don't exist and make them real. All because fire gave us nighttime, and nighttime gave us each other without the distractions of work and survival. Just voices in darkness, stories told and retold, knowledge passing from old to young in the most ancient classroom ever created. Your grandfather shifts his weight, settles himself more comfortably. The fire illuminates his face from below, makes the shadows deep, makes him look ancient, timeless, like he's always been here and always will be. He begins to speak. Not loudly. The fire does most of the work, makes everyone lean in, makes listening feel intimate. Tonight's story is one you know, everyone knows, but that doesn't matter. The knowing is part of the magic. You know what happens, but you still feel the suspense, still gasp at the right moments, still feel satisfied when it ends the way it always ends. It's about the winter 3 generations ago. The winter that almost killed everyone. When the snow came early and stayed late, and the hunting failed for weeks. When supplies ran low. When hunger became more than discomfort. When it became dangerous. But there was an elder then, a woman known for her knowledge of plants. And she remembered something. A root that grew deep, that could survive beneath snow, that most animals wouldn't eat, so it was always there, waiting, if you knew where to look. She led expeditions, dangerous trips in killing weather. They dug through frozen ground, found the roots, brought them back, and the tribe survived. The woman's name is spoken with reverence. She's been dead for 50 years, but she's alive in this story. Her knowledge saved everyone, which means she saved you. Your existence is proof of her competence. This isn't just entertainment. This is ancestor worship in its purest form. This is the acknowledgement that you stand on the shoulders of giants, that everything you have, everything you are, exists because people you never met made choices that kept the chain unbroken. The story ends. Someone else begins another. About a young hunter who thought he was clever, who tried to outsmart a rabbit and ended up waist-deep in mud while the rabbit watched from a safe distance. Everyone laughs, even though they've heard it before, especially because they've heard it before. The laughter is comfortable, shared, the kind that bonds people together. Children are getting drowsy now. The littlest ones already asleep, curled against parents, breathing deeply. Your little sister is fighting it, eyes heavy, keep closing, snapping open. She doesn't want to miss anything. Your grandmother begins to hum, low, rhythmic. Others join, not quite singing, just sound, wordless melody that seems to come from the earth itself. It's so old nobody remembers who created it. It just exists, like weather, like stone. The humming vibrates in your chest, makes your eyelids heavy. This is deliberate. This is technology. Sound frequency that induces relaxation. That signals to every nervous system present that it's safe now. But you're not quite ready, not quite tired enough. You notice your grandfather watching the fire. Some message that you can't yet interpret. He catches you watching him. Smiles. Gestures for you to sit closer. You move, carefully, stepping over sleeping children. Settle beside him. You did well today, he says quietly. Not praise exactly. Statement of fact. The hunt. You kept pace. You stayed quiet when quiet mattered. You nod. Don't know what to say. Words feel inadequate suddenly. Sleep will come soon, he continues, but not all at once. You'll wake in the middle. Everyone does. That's normal. That's when the thinking happens. The dreaming while still awake. This surprises you. You thought you were the only one who wakes in deep night, who lies there in darkness, mind active, while everyone else sleeps. We used to call it the watching time, your grandfather says, the time between first sleep and second sleep, when the mind is quiet but aware, when dreams and waking mix, when the important thoughts come. He's describing something that anthropologists won't understand for thousands of years. That before artificial light, before schedules and alarm clocks, humans didn't sleep straight through the night. They slept in two phases. First sleep, then a period of quiet wakefulness, then second sleep. This wasn't insomnia. This was normal. This was how human sleep worked for 200,000 years. Only in the last 200 years, with electric lights and shift work, and the demand for 8 continuous hours, did we change it. Force ourselves into an unnatural pattern, and now we call it a disorder when our bodies try to do what they're designed to do. When we wake at 2 in the morning and can't fall back asleep immediately, we think something's wrong. We take pills. We fight our own biology. Your ancestors embraced it, used it. The watching time was for reflection, for intimacy between partners, for contemplating the day, for planning tomorrow, for the kind of thinking that only happens in deep darkness when the world is silent. What do you think about, you ask? During the watching time, your grandfather considers everything, nothing. I remember people who are gone. I think about patterns, weather, the things I've seen. Sometimes I just listen to everyone breathing, count them, make sure they're all still here. This last part makes your throat tight. The tenderness in it, the love, the constant low-level vigilance that defines being an elder. Being responsible, never fully relaxing because too much depends on your awareness. The fire is dying down. Someone adds wood, but not much. Enough to keep it alive through the night, but not so much that it's too bright, too hot. The balance maintained through practice. People are arranging themselves for sleep, spreading hides, positioning children between adults for warmth and safety. The cave fills with the sound of settling, of bodies finding comfort on hard ground that somehow doesn't feel hard anymore. That feels like home. Your grandmother lies down near you, your little sister between you and her, your parents close, your uncle and aunt and cousins, all of you together, 23 people in one space, breathing, warm, safe. This is how humans sleep, not in separate rooms with locked doors and privacy, together, always together, close enough to hear each other, to reach out in the dark and touch someone, to know with absolute certainty that you're not alone. Modern people sleep isolated, in separate beds, separate rooms, sometimes separate houses, and we wonder why children are afraid of the dark, why adults feel vulnerable at night, why sleep disorders are epidemic. Your ancestors never had that problem. The darkness wasn't empty. It was full of family, full of breath and presence, and the certainty of not being alone. You close your eyes. The fire makes patterns on your eyelids, red and orange and dancing. You hear the last murmurs of conversation. Feel the warmth of your sister against your side. Smell smoke and earth and the familiar scent of your people. This is safety, real safety. Not alarm systems or locked doors, just proximity, community, the knowledge that 22 other people surround you, that any threat would have to go through them to reach you, that you're protected not by walls but by love. Your breathing slows, matches the rhythm around you. 23 people breathing together, hearts beating in loose synchronization. You're falling into first sleep, that deep, dreamless state that claims you quickly when you've worked all day, when your body is truly tired instead of just mentally exhausted. Somewhere in the watching time you'll wake. You'll lie there in darkness. Maybe think about the hunt, about the deer's eyes, about your grandmother's painting, about the baby born this evening, about everything and nothing, and then you'll drift back into second sleep, deeper this time, where the real dreams live, where your mind processes the day, where you become who you're becoming. But for now, you're just falling, letting go, trusting the darkness, trusting the breathing around you, trusting that tomorrow the sun will rise and the day will begin again, and you'll be ready for it. Your last conscious thought is gratitude, not articulated, just felt, for the hunt, for the food, for the fire, for the stories, for the 23 people whose existence makes your existence possible, and then you're gone, into sleep that's been the same for 200,000 years. The kind that restores, that heals, that prepares you for whatever comes next. The fire burns low, the stars wheel overhead, the cave holds its people close, and sleep, that most ancient surrender, claims everyone, one by one, breath by breath, until even the watching time arrives and passes, until the deepest part of night surrounds you, until nothing remains but rest and dreams, and the infinite darkness that connects every human who has ever lived to every human who will ever live. Tomorrow is coming. Tonight, you rest, and now you're back, in your bed, in your room, in your time. But they're not really gone. Not completely. Because you're here, and you wouldn't be here if they hadn't survived. If they hadn't hunted successfully that day, if that baby hadn't been born healthy that evening, if they hadn't known which plants to eat and which would kill them, if they hadn't stayed together when everything in them might have wanted to scatter and hide, every single one of your ancestors, going back to that cave and beyond, survived long enough to have children. Every single one. Think about that for a moment. The sheer improbability of it, the astronomical odds against your existence. How many close calls were there? How many moments where death came within inches and somehow missed? How many diseases fought off? How many predators escaped? How many winters endured when food was scarce and hope was scarcer? Thousands. Millions. An unbroken chain of survival stretching back through time so deep you can't comprehend it. And every link in that chain had to hold. Every single one. One break. Anywhere, anytime. And you're not here. You don't exist. But they held. The chain held. Through ice ages and plagues and wars and famines and catastrophes we don't even have names for. Through 200,000 years of everything the world could throw at fragile human bodies, they survived. And they gave you something. Not just your DNA, not just your body and your brain and your capacity to think and feel. They gave you their resilience, their adaptability, their refusal to quit when quitting would have been easier. You carry them with you, in ways you probably don't even recognize. That urge to keep going when you're exhausted, that's them. That capacity to find solutions when everything seems impossible, that's them too. That deep knowledge that you're stronger than you think. You're not separate from them. You're not better or worse. You're just different. You face different challenges, different threats, different opportunities, but you're still human. Still capable of the same courage, the same creativity, the same stubborn determination to make it through. They didn't have it all figured out. They made mistakes. They struggled. They felt fear and doubt and exhaustion. They weren't perfect. They were just people trying to survive, trying to take care of the people they loved, trying to make it through one more day, just like you. Right now, in your very different world, with your very different problems, but the same fundamental challenge: to survive, to persist, to keep the chain unbroken. And you know what? You're doing it. You made it through today. You're here, right now, in this moment, still breathing, still thinking, still connected to that ancient lineage that stretches back to caves and fires and survival against impossible odds. That's enough. It has to be enough. Because it was enough for them. They didn't solve every problem. They didn't answer every question. They didn't make everything perfect. They just kept going. And that was sufficient. That was everything. You can rest now. You've earned it. Not because you did something extraordinary today, not because you achieved some great accomplishment, but because you're alive, because you made it through, because you're continuing the chain. Even if you don't think about it that way, your body knows how to sleep. It's been doing it for 200,000 years. Your ancestors' bodies, your body, they're not that different. The same need for rest, the same surrender to darkness, the same trust that morning will come. So let go. Let your breathing slow. Let your muscles relax. Let your mind drift. You don't need to figure anything out right now. You don't need to solve any problems. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to rest. To let sleep come the way it came to your grandmother in that cave, the way it came to her grandmother, the way it's come to every human who's ever lived. Natural, necessary, restorative, the oldest ritual, the deepest surrender, the return to darkness that prepares you for light. You're safe. You're connected to something vast. You're part of a story that began long before you were born and will continue long after you're gone. And right now, in this moment, your only job is to rest. Close your eyes. Breathe. Feel yourself held by time, by history, by the unbroken chain of survival that made you possible. Your ancestors are with you, not literally, but in your bones, in your breath, in your capacity to rest when rest is needed. Sleep now. Let the day go. Let tomorrow wait. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Good night. Sleep well. The chain continues. It always has. And you're part of it. Always have been. Always will be. Rest now. You've earned it. Just by being here. Just by surviving another day. That's enough. You're enough. Rest.